and I know that you guys all have some kids. So African Business Club, our goal is to normalize financial literacy and promote collaboration among Africans through networking, education, and sharing ideas. And I'm just gonna skip this. I think Doyen is gonna talk more about it later on. But thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. And without further ado, we're gonna get started. So if you guys can briefly introduce yourself and your goals as a family, and we could start with Deji and Hirat. If you can introduce yourself and your goals as a family.
Hi, my name is Deji. This is my wife, Hirat, Babalola. We reside in Maryland. I grew up in New Jersey. My both our families are from Nigeria. She grew up in Boston area. We've been married for 4 years now. Um, yeah, our goal right now is okay. So we have a 3-year-old son and a 4-month-old. And our goal right now is essentially to pay off our debts and to get into real estate investing, and kind of establish some type of side business in addition to our careers. I'm a registered nurse anesthetist. I'm an advanced practice nurse that works in the hospital, and she's in sports management. She has a master's in sports and entertainment, and she's been in the sporting industry for about 10 years now. She works for the Washington Redskins. Washington football team. Sorry. Anything else you want to add?
No, you covered it all. Happy to be here with
All right. All right. My name is Ozoma Onyenanachi. My wife's name is Nicole. Sorry she wasn't able to join us today. As you know, I think my fellow panel members understand these kinds of situations. We do have a 2-year-old daughter and a 2-month-old daughter. So 2 kids. I've known my wife for over 15 years, and we've been married for about 5 years. Well, 4.5 going on 5 years. Our goal right now is really is kind of a couple folds, right? You know, with the kids growing, we are, you know, we're very focused on making sure that we understand, you know, what their natural talents are and abilities are, because my daughter is showing a lot of that. So we're paying attention to that, to mold that a little bit as she grows. Financially speaking, you know, my wife has a business that she's getting ready to kind of put out there. She likes to sew. She likes to make clothes. She's been doing it for quite some time, self-taught. So we are looking to hopefully try and launch that sometime next year. For me, I'm a guy full of ideas. You know, one of the things I'm obviously doing is the ABC stuff. I'm also looking into going to a different career path. I'm currently a program manager in the aerospace industry. My wife is a lawyer. She's an attorney. So for me, I'm trying to go into a different, you know, career path, but on the business side, my goal really is to get more involved in the aviation side. So I want to get into aviation, especially back home in Nigeria. So I've been contacting some new folks that got into the industry in recent years to see what connections I can make to be able to contribute, hopefully as a consultant in this area. And that's aside from some of the small ventures that I'm actually building some business plan on currently right now. So it's busy, it's a lot going on, but you know, we're supporting each other given the different path that we've got going.
That's great to know. I learned a lot about you guys today. I just learned your wife does sewing. I also have that background. I don't know if you know, so you could connect us and we can help each other with that goal. And then Hirat, I wish I had you back when I was in high school. I was that kid that did not like gym. I hated gym class. But anyways, we're gonna get to the next question. How do you guys balance it all, having a family of 2 to 3 kids and being able to stay healthy while you're trying to build your businesses and build your wealth? How do you balance everything?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think for us, the biggest thing is scheduling and planning ahead. Deji was really good at using Google calendar, and I was more so just, this is what we have to do and remembering it. But once we started to sync up and using Google Calendar and scheduling things far in advance, it's really helped us with the flow of our week to week. And throughout the year, we know what to anticipate and how to plan for it. Perfect example, we're in Delaware right now, and we planned this trip. It's only 2.5 hours away from us, but we planned this trip about a month and a half ago. So we knew it was coming. We knew what to prepare for the children. Our nanny situation, we were able to, give her the weekend off. She was grateful for that. And we knew that my cousins would appreciate the heads up. So they were prepared to receive a family of 4 into their home. So I think for us, planning ahead of time is very crucial. Our children are both on pretty rigorous schedules, and that's fairly because I like to sleep. So because I value sleep, I work really hard with the both of them on putting them on a sleep schedule. So my son, for example, yesterday, he didn't take a nap because he was out and about, but it was very evident he needed a nap because he's just so used to that 2-hour nap in the middle of the day. Our 4-month-old, same thing. He's on a eat, play, sleep schedule, and it's pretty consistent throughout the day, which for the most part helps us at night with him as well. But I would say we're able to balance everything because of the scheduling. We have a lot going on, and we still fumble through it all sometimes, but having a solid schedule on the front end does help us kind of recoup some of the time wasted or not getting things done.
Okay, that was very insightful. I'm gonna need the schedule that you have your kids on, not you, your kids, because I need that for myself. I like sleep. But Uzi, how about you? How do you balance?
I think for us, minus the Google Calendar, which I'm sure is probably going to come up down the line, for us has been before the kids even arrived. We had an idea how we wanted to run the household. So for our kids, my daughter, the biggest challenge we had was, weaning her off mommy so that she can start sleeping by herself. But once we got that down, she wakes up at the same time every day. She has her breakfast at the same time. She gets her teeth brushed. So sometimes if we skip brushing the teeth, she reminds us about brushing the teeth. Believe it or not, she's 2 years old because she's so used to that. Right after that, she gets dressed. And what we've actually learned is she knows what day is daycare day and what day is just a stay-at-home day. If it's daycare day, we fight a lot about what she's going to wear because she wants to pick it. If it's a regular day, like a Saturday, throw her in some jersey, she won't even budge at all. So, and then we know when she's going to daycare, we know when she's going to be back. And once she gets back, we kind of went back and forth between dinner before shower before dinner, monitoring how she's responding to that, how the energy is flowing, depending on what we do when. And now we're down to get home, play a little bit, shower, and then eat and give her time to play a little bit because we realized what she eats drives her energy level. And if she eats too late, she stays up too late. So we have that tacked down. And then the process of getting her to sleep was another thing we had to get, build up on. So now she's used to, reading her book and then listening to a music from Sound of the Music movie. If you don't do those two things, she's not going to bed, right? So, and if it's with me, we're going to fly in the air for a little bit. So in other words, there's certain things we've put in place that allows her to actually understand what's happening when, what's going to happen next. And that has made it easier for us to now say, okay, we know Nora's going to do this and do this in these pockets of time. This is where we have room to fit in X, Y, and Z. So as far as staying healthy, for me, that's always been a big part for me. And it's either I'm waking up very early in the morning. Now that we've got 2, I try not to leave early in the morning because, I've got 2 kids and I've got a wife at home. So I don't want to leave them at home too early. So what I do is I wait when Nora goes off to daycare and it's just mommy and baby. I find a pocket of time between work and that staying at home to fit in maybe a couple minutes of, cardio workout. And I've had to adjust my diet from time to time. I've had to adjust not going to the gym, but doing things at home. So there's it's just basically staying aware of what do you want to do? What do you want to achieve? And just being aware of that and managing that as things evolve. I think what I'll throw out there, and I think Dejidan will know this too, is once you have a kid, no matter how well you nail things down, there's always going to be variables. And I think just being ready to take in those variables and respond to them is really just is really where the fun is. I like to call it fun, right? Because otherwise you're not going to stay on your toes. So we've been kind of just working it that way. I think when the second kids gets a little bit older, and the schedule gets a little bit more consistent, it would be easier for us to have more consistent pockets of time. And we'll have to figure out another way to make the most out of those individual pockets of time.
Thank you for sharing that. This is going to come in handy when I decide to have kids in the future. If I decide to have kids in the future, this is going to definitely come in handy. But thank you for that. For the next couple questions, we're going to just ask one question per person. So we're going to go with you, Deji. How much consideration do you put into family planning while building your wealth?
A lot of consideration, because with the cost of children, I think it's, I don't know, 2 million they say or something like that, just to raise a child when you count schooling and just shelter, the necessities. So obviously it does play a factor. So right now we do have 2 children. I always wanted 3 children, but the way our generation is and the way the cost of living is it is a little different. So it's a lot of that's almost the main factor when we consider how many children you want to have. I know we all grew up with multiple siblings and all this other stuff, but unfortunately, the generation we're all in now, it just doesn't dictate that type of environment where you could have one person working, one person at home. Because the thing, okay, so I'll give you an example. Like if we have, so we talked about it recently, if we have a 3rd child, her job, she's a manager with the Washington football team. She's in a trajectory to move up. And I'm like, with 3 children, how many people in your industry has 3 children, women in the VP, C-suite type of level? And there's not that many. Not saying that she can't. It's not saying that she can't, but it's like one of those things where it's like, if you're working, you have 3 kids, do you want someone raising your children? Do you want to have daycare? Because I know a lot of high earning people, they have to have someone there. And yeah, sometimes it's family, sometimes it's not. What if her job is one of those jobs you move where opportunities are? So she could be with Las Vegas Raiders, gives her a VP position. And let's say we take it like we can't just drag everyone with us type of thing, right? So like it all is a lot of factors. Are you confined to a area of the country where your family is, where your support is? That might be limiting your opportunities, but that might be what you have. So yeah, for us, we're happy with 2 children, and the 3rd would have to be, we would have to have a clear understanding of who's going to be doing what. Maybe I take a step back from work. We don't know. So anyway, so to answer your question, it has a huge, that's almost probably the number 1 factor for us. I didn't think that was the question right here.
Well, thank you for sharing that. 2 million per kid. I didn't know that. You just helped me make my decision on whether I want to have kids. But I see we have a special guest. Hi, it's a special guest.
His name
Make sure you run your daddy's pockets.
His name is Joe Ray. Joe Ray Oluwa.
Say that again.
Joe Ray.
Joe Ray.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Joe Ray. Okay, we're gonna give the next question to Uzi. What are the advantages and disadvantages, if any, of running a business as a couple? I think you said you guys are running 2 different separate companies, but if you can tell us what are the advantages and disadvantages?
I think so. Right now, with my wife kind of setting up her, her business stuff, and me working on my own stuff. I remember, early on when our first daughter was born, one of the things that had to happen is, my wife kind of took a step back, right? Naturally, right? Because obviously the kids stuck to her almost all day. And me having to pay attention to that and recognize that, okay, she's going to need more time to do what she needs to do. Also having my 9 to 5, it got to a point like last year where I was like, you know what, I'm going to do something that basically kind of sends a message that says, hey, jumpstart this again, right? So I I got a couple gifts, right, which were meant to be Christmas gift, but at the same time, they had a message behind them because they tied directly to her business, to the thing she's building. So as soon as she saw them and she saw the card and what's in the card, it was almost like another jump starter, right? And since then, she's just been constantly, online reviewing this, documenting this, and putting things together. I think the advantages of it, I'm going to start with disadvantages actually. The only disadvantage of it for us is just that we're doing two different things. Our interests are a little bit different. So as she's doing her thing, there's going to be that time management, keeping in mind the kids need attention, right? As far as the advantages of it is precisely that we're doing two different things, right? So there's not going to be a lot of bumping heads, only because we're so passionate about what we're doing. But at the same time, I'm passionate about what she's doing. She's also passionate for me about what I'm doing. So we're just basically feeding off each other's energy. And I'm bouncing ideas off of her as well as she's bouncing ideas off of me. One of the fun things about, doing some of these things, doing it as a couple is, so for instance, one of the things she's looking into was, setting up a boutique through maybe some items that are like sold out in other continents and kind of bringing them in, and then, working with them in a way with the sewing stuff. So one of the offers that I made was, in the near future, when this whole COVID thing dies down, I'm going to present her with a ticket to Paris, right? And that could be seen as a gift, but at the same time, it's another jump starter, right? It's another thing that basically says, hey, pursue this thing you're trying to do. I'm behind you, right? And for me, in things that I'm trying to do, from time to time, I'll get a link from her that basically ties into some aviation news or something like that she just came across. And that tells me she's tied into what I'm doing as well. So that advantage of being able to have the independence of what we're doing and just kind of bouncing ideas off of each other, definitely stand out for us. And we try to feed off of that energy.
That's so great that you guys support each other, even though you're in two different paths. That's very important, being a couple and pursuing two different things. The support is definitely needed. But I want to ask this question to you guys as well, since you guys are also in business. What are the advantages and disadvantages, if any, of running a business as a couple?
Yeah, I think there's more advantages than there are disadvantages. For us in particular, when we started Tribal Wave, it was Deji's brainchild, and I didn't understand, or it didn't make sense to me, simply because I could not wear Ankara to work. Like, I guess I could, depending on how I styled it, but I definitely can't wear a head wrap unless it's for religious purposes. So I didn't understand the passion or the need behind it. But once I started to flow into it with him, I understood why it was important to the medical field. And I think I became a little bit more passionate about it than he expected. I was ready to take it to the next level and figure out ways that we can grow it and scale it. And we're still in that stage right now, but there's definitely advantages. Our relationship definitely grew because of us being in business. We're stronger as a couple. Like, we realize that money doesn't affect us as a couple. Like, we don't fight over money. We don't fight over what's coming in, what's coming out, what we need to invest. We trust each other in that sense. And I think that kind of, we realized that even more while we were in business. He has his strong suits, I have mine, and we respect them. And I think that happened during the business forming and growing process. So yeah, there was definitely more advantages than disadvantages. The only disadvantage I would say is, because we're both in the business, it takes up a lot of our time, and it's hard to balance anything else. So sometimes, since we're both doing it, if neither one of us are doing it, it's probably not going to get done because we're both doing it, and there's not a third person that's going to be able to step in and pick up where we left off. So that's kind of part of business, I would say. We're hoping to be able to grow from this stage, but that's probably the biggest disadvantage, is that we're both part of the business and there's not a third person that could step in when neither one of us are available or around to kind of work on it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that feedback. Somebody just commented another advantage is that family trips become business trips, and then you could write all of that off, keep more money in your pockets. So yes, that's definitely a advantage.
There's one
But
thing I
the
wanted to add was there's this book called The E Myth, and it talks about small business and starting small businesses and scaling it. And I think one thing that's really important is that you delegate specific roles to like yourself and your partner. Like if they're like doing sales, like almost make it like a real Fortune 500. That's kind of what the book said. Like if who's VP of sales, who's VP of operations, even if it's multiple roles. Because what happens is you're doing something and meanwhile they're doing the same thing. And then like you're kind of being less efficient by like both handling certain things. And then sometimes you kind of, I feel like there's been times where she'll say we should do it this way. And I'm like, we should do it this way. But if there's kind of one person owning that responsibility, it makes it a little easier so you can kind of focus on something else. So that's kind of like my one thing I learned of like family business and things like that. And we're still in the infant stages and we're still learning a lot, even just about business. And it's actually just a really good learning experience in general for both of us. So it's been good. It's been good.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. Hopefully, African Business Club can be a catalyst to help you both in your businesses. But the next question, we're gonna give it to you, Uzi. How do you motivate each other in accomplishing your personal goals?
I think some of that kind of spoke to a little bit in the early stages, right? Is transforming certain gifts into also things that send a message that say, hey, I'm aware of some of these goals that you have, and this will also help you with those goals, right? One of the things for my wife and I is is a case might be, I don't want to say unique, but in its own way, right? Since we've known each other for so long, we've watched each other grow from teenage to where we are today. So we've been aware of some of the things that we want to do as an individual for so long. And now we're kind of growing into that, right? At this age and running a family, that we are conscious of what each other wants to do. So where we are now is basically just kind of as these kids grow and as we put things, and they say that Gemini romantic. Yo, calm down. So, as we raise this family, for us, it's just being more conscious of time management, right? So we have periods where the focus could be what I want to do, right, versus what she wants to do. The focus could be what she wants to do versus what I want to do. Now, one of the good things about her stuff is a lot of it can easily be done online, right? So she's very independent as far as things she can do. So she could just be sitting, the baby sleeping on, and she's just doing her thing online. So from that perspective, it helps a lot with just kind of taking the pressure off time management for her. As far as actual personal goals, one thing we've actually done together, to be honest with you, is we kind of started a family thing where every Thursday we get together and we basically just kind of chat, right? So we kind of catch up on each other. We talk about certain things just a bit more openly, and it makes us aware of what each other's got going on, and that makes us more conscious again of what those things are. One thing I will also say is, my wife doesn't talk a lot, but when she does say something, I like to pay attention because when she says it, if I don't get it at that time, the next time I hear it, it may be me having to ask the question again. But when she says it, it's coming from a very passionate place, and it follows through with some kind of additional information, things that she goes off and finds for me on her own, and she sends it to me to basically support what it is that I'm trying to do. For instance, I've been learning a little bit about data science, and one day I just kind of got up and I got a text message. She sent me a link to this website where there's free coding lessons and stuff like that, and basically say, hey, look this up, right? That's being aware of what I'm trying to accomplish as a person, and basically helping me with some of the things that I've discussed with her that I'm looking for. And for her, there was a period of time when I believe it was like her birthday was coming around, and I know she's been trying to get back into the whole fitness field, stuff like that. I basically got her like a little, what do you call it, the Fitbit watch or something like that, So I felt like that was something that could maybe motivate her to be able to, push along the direction she was trying to head and getting back into her fitness. So just little things like that we do that basically just kind of send small messages here and there, is how we try to, motivate each other, just keep us going.
That's great. Talk Niger said, they said Niger men are not romantic, but Uzi, it seemed like he's trying to prove us different. So that's great that you guys have known each other for 15 years. You really know each other's goals inside and out. So you can really motivate each other on a deeper level. But we're gonna give this next question to Deji and Hirat. Is it possible for us to live healthier lifestyles while still maintaining an affordable budget? That's the question. I really want to know this answer.
Well, for me, I'll say my little piece on the health thing. I think if you're not healthy and you're not doing what you, and if you're not in a good space in yourself, it's really hard to give from an empty cup. So I think your health is actually a priority for your family. So I think people like say, oh, this thing costs too much money and things like that. Like I got a Peloton, and that's been kind of like my main way to work out and things like that. And a lot of people say it's expensive, but it really depends on how much you value, right, your health. Like, if that's going to get you healthy, like it's probably worth more than the price, right? So, so an affordable budget. I mean, obviously, you could still be healthy and maintain an affordable budget. I think for us, what we do is nutrition. So let me start from here. There's a few things I've learned recently that's very priority, right? Like sleep, right? Sleep doesn't cost money. Well, unless you count time. But anyway, sleep doesn't cost money. That's a priority. Hydration, water's pretty cheap. Very important. A lot of people don't do it. The next for me is nutrition. Now, nutrition, you don't need to have a lot of money to actually be nutritious. Like protein shake is fairly cheap. All you need is greens, a bag of greens, some fruit, protein powder, blender. So that's very good. Salads you can make yourself. So I think nutrition, then working out, right? I think working out could be a lot of things. It could be calisthenics, it could be push-up, sit-up. So the point in saying all this is I think it could be affordable if you think outside the box and you're mindful your resources. There's videos on YouTube. There's a lot of ways to be healthy. I think the first thing people think about is you see Instagram and people are doing chin ups, flying over the bar, and they're doing flips and all of that. That's not really a healthy lifestyle per se. That's entertainment, in my opinion. So there's a lot of things you could do that are very affordable to remain healthy. I mean, just eating well, sleeping, and hydration could actually take you further than anything you could imagine. Those things are within itself. So that's my spill. Anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, and I think when it comes to affordability, the idea of healthy food always seems expensive to people, and that's because of what they see online or the dishes that are healthy. They see the ingredients and they're like, oh, like if I go get this organic chicken, it's gonna cost X. If I go get this, it's gonna cost Y. But what I'll say is when I was single, living in Phoenix on a very small budget, I was able to, I always tell my husband, I'm like, the best shape I was in was when I was in Phoenix, and I ate very clean and it was very inexpensive. It was chicken breast and vegetables. All the bags of rice, all of that stuff, I didn't have to buy it, but I would buy a bags of frozen vegetables, mixed vegetables, and I would saute some chicken, saute some fish. And if you do that, your budget is going to be, you don't need much money to do that every day. Now, yes, if you're getting free range and no, like there's levels to chicken, but if you're just conscious enough to take out all the extra stuff like snacks are expensive. After a while, like that actually adds up versus getting a frozen bag of vegetables. So I would say it is affordable if you do it the right way and just keep it simple.
Yeah. Last thing I'll add is there's a book called The China Study, and they did a study on the Asian community and how they stay healthy and dieting and all these things. And the funny thing about it is a lot of the disparities and issues with health and people eat so much is because there was really a sign of wealth historically. So it's like they had so much money, they ate in abundance, right? So it's like what I'm learning these days is like I actually don't need to eat as much as I do. If you actually do your numbers, you're already eating more than you need to. Like in America, we eat in abundance of excessive lifestyle choices and meaning food. So people think, oh, it's too much, it's too much. You're probably already eating more than you already have to anyway. If you actually take it down in moderation, you'll probably be spending less money anyway. So there's a lot of misconceptions with nutrition, but once again, there's a lot of things that are free, right? Like there's a lot of things I'm learning now, like focused breathing, hydration, like I said before, sleep, high quality sleep. That's when you recover from working out, is when you sleep. So for me, if you haven't noticed, health and wellness is like a very high priority for me. I work in the nursing in the hospital. I see people that are 40 that are on dialysis and people that are 40 that are running marathons, right? So it's like I've seen both scales, people of the same age, and it's really all lifestyle decisions. And I have still young children that I want to be able to be active with and things like that. So the funny thing about also last thing, the funny thing I've realized lately also is when you invest in yourself, especially in your health and wellness, everyone reaps the dividends of that. Your family sees you in a healthier way. You're more confident. You actually have more energy, more vitality. You're more focused. You're more focused on things you have to do. You may excel in your business. You communicate better. You're well rested. You remember more things when your wife tells you something and you're forgetting all. You have brain fog. Like it's preventing all those things. So
Right.
it's worth it. End of the day.
Exactly. Thank you. I got a lot of nuggets from you because my solution was to just starve myself, but I like all the solutions that you said because at the end of the day, when you're more healthy, you get a lot more done. So
Isa, let me add to this, please. Right, this is a very passionate part for me. Sorry, Isa, and I'm gonna get to this one in a bit. I think someone mentioned in there keyword is lifestyle, right? And the other thing to keep in mind too is budget. So as a person or as a family, you have to define your budget, right? Once you define your budget and try to live within there, you're gonna find things that fit into that budget, right? And also, folks got to understand when we talk about health and lifestyle, we got to keep in mind it's not just about food. It's also about being able to go without food, right? There's meditation, right? There's finding alone time. There's being able to do some cleansing, right? Which could mean just focus on water, right? Keep away extra juices. So I want to point out that my daughter, my wife and I, one of the things we stay very focused on, our daughter only just tasted pizza maybe like 3 months ago for the first time ever, right? All her food comes from our kitchen. So believe it or not, it is cheaper because what I eat is what she eats, right? So we focus on those things. If my daughter runs into you, you would think a 5-year-old ran into you, right? So these are small ways that once you get into that lifestyle, and again, keyword lifestyle, it becomes a part of what you do, right? The budget is already in there. You're just moving along with it. So I think folks open things up, and as time goes, you learn this, you try to fit it in. You learn that you try to fit it in. Before you know it, your budget is blowing up. If you know your budget, you can take something out, fit something in as you adjust yourself to whatever is changing in your life. So it's just something to keep in mind. It's not just food, it's also, mental and just finding time with people you love.
Right. See what other people are doing, right? Like I see people I work with in Caucasians, they go on vacation or their weekend, they're hiking. Do you know how many calories they burn hiking? And that's what they consider, that's why they enjoy their time. They're doing things active. When they say active lifestyle, that's not just I went to the gym. That's like I park away from the place I'm going, so I walk. I walk after I eat. I do this with my kids. We're walking them out. We're hiking. We're doing picnics. We're riding our bikes. We all do. It's a lifestyle. It's not just going to the gym and doing flips and having a six-pack, right? Like there's levels, obviously, but that's not really necessary to be healthy.
Right. So is this question for me?
Yes. So any recommendations for specific resources to track spending as a family?
So for my wife and I, we're a bit traditional, I'm quite traditional. She's a bit as well. We don't use any apps or anything at the moment, right? But again, as time passes, right, these things will probably start popping up. One of the things that we did to keep things very simple is I own all the bills. My wife owns basically, handling, putting away money, right? After the bills, whatever I got put away, I put it away. So what that does for us is this: when the bills come, Uzi takes care of it, right? We don't need to worry about whose account is what coming from. Everything is taken care of, right? You can pull up a bank statement, and every month you pull up a bank statement, you can literally see the same set of bills leaving the same day every month, right? So for us, it makes it so much easier to just understand who owns what, to be able to keep the household running, and who owns what when it's time to go see, okay, we need to do X, Y, and Z. Where is that coming from? We know exactly where it's coming from. So that separation has made things so much easier for us. And that started as soon as we actually moved into the home, into our house right now, was to be able to set that aside. One of the things that I would add is, with the addition of our second kid, more stuff, more things come in. For us, it's been easy because we've established that with Nora. But I think with the business coming on and certain other things coming on, we're probably going to get a bit more technological with it. And those are things that we're monitoring right now to understand, how technology is going to factor in to make sure that we're able to separate business expense from, potential, family expenses. But right now, so far, that setup has been pretty, flowing pretty well for us, easily. And it goes back to what Deji was saying, right? Who is your VP of resource, operations? Who's your VP of, whatever it is, who's who. If someone comes in and they say, hey, you got to get eviction, you turn to Uzi like, yo, what's good? So because you own that, right? And it's also communicating whenever there's a potential issue.
Thank you for contributing that. I could tell you are a technical person, but we're gonna give this next question for you, Deji. What important financial literacy concepts do you think is important to teach your, sorry, my screen, to teach your children, and how do you plan on teaching them these concepts?
Oh yeah, so obviously they're 3 and they're an infant now, so we can't really implement it. But I think that's exactly a question that I've been asking myself recently. But I think for me, the priorities would be just learning the habit of saving. I think just the knowing that habit of just paying yourself first. And when I have $10, that doesn't mean I have to spend $10. I think that's probably going to be the foundational thing we do. We might even practice if they do things around the house, giving them some money and just telling them, look, this $10, you could have 5. You're going to have to save the other 5, and just showing them exactly the cultivating that habit. Because without saving, you can't invest, right? Without investing, you can't build wealth. So I think that's probably going to be the most, probably one of the most important financial literacy concepts we teach them. And then as they get older, I'm going to try my best to just incorporate maybe games. I know there's games that incorporate financial literacy, and just giving them like the general concept of compound interest. I think that's another phenomenal concept that people just underestimate. When that 15% goes up, and then that next 15% becomes another 15% the next year, and how money grows. I think that's probably going to be another concept that'll get them more excited once they're older. So saving, compound interest, and just also teach them how the stock market works, just like how you could own a company, right? Like how ownership works, like the power of owning things. So I think those are probably the 3 main concepts that we plan on teaching them. These are the financial concepts for the children. So that's those are going to be the main ones I think that we talk about: saving, the power of compound interest, and I just said ownership, just owning things, owning stocks, owning property, owning the power of owning. And I hope, and the goal is actually our actions show these things, right? Like my son, he gets the packages when we send out our merchandise. He puts the little stamp on it and the postage, and he helps me. So I think over time, him just seeing us do these things is going to speak volumes. I know a lot of African parents, they speak they show me what's the saying when they like telling you to do something that they don't even do themselves, basically. Telling you things that you haven't even seen it. So that's actually a goal of mine for my children. I want them to see all the things that we're talking about.
That's important because they don't teach it in schools, and financial literacy, it starts at the home. So it's great. Uzi, you can answer that question too.
For me,
What
I think for me, echo everything that you said, right? I think for my daughter, I'm going to be a bit traditional as well. One of the things that I've come to learn in the last couple of years is I've gone through some personal development exercise, and I think that's why Talk Nigeria is making a lot of noise over there. He's a good friend of mine that we work on personal development conversations. I've come to learn a lot about charity, right? I'll be honest with you, when my kid gets a certain age, she's going to have to follow me to go deliver some turkey on Thanksgiving Day and deliver some Christmas gifts. One of the things I want her to understand is where you are, the fact that you can eat every day is because there's some hard work involved. It's not because you just woke up and it's there for you. And I think instilling in her the value of being able to appreciate what you have, hopefully will translate into, if I give you $1, understand that it has value, right? And the other thing I would like to also teach my kids is I'll take it to one of the things we did in Nigeria. If I give you $5 to go run an errand, I want to see what you bought, right? If something costs $2 and you went and bought the $3 one, you and I are having a conversation, right? So spend that extra 10 minutes, go find that $2 one and get me the $3 back. Those kinds of activities, is things that I want to teach them through, as Deji said, action, and see how they respond to certain things. I know I can get pretty traditional, but I think that, understanding how my daughter operates too is one of the reasons why this is one of the hows on how I would do that with my daughter. I'll see how the second baby grows up to become, and we'll see what fits well with her. But my daughter is very observational, and I would like to feed off of that character of hers. And I think those are two key things that I'll try to implement, and hopefully they send a message.
That's great. That's great. Because like I said, I think there's only 2 states that teach financial literacy in schools. So it's very important that you start instilling that into your kids at a young age. But that was the last of the questions. So now we're going to open it up for anybody who has questions that you want to ask our panel. I think somebody wanted to ask a question in the chat. Bayo. Bayo, did you have a question?
Okay.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you. So, just so you know, I'm kind of walking, so I think this fits into all the conversation. So there might be some fluctuation with my audio, just please bear with me. Let me start by saying thank you very much for putting this together. There's been a lot of content and context that I heard that I believe would help people improve or cultivate habits of healthy living or healthy lifestyle within a reasonable budget. Something caught my attention earlier on when Deji was speaking. And I think it was in reference to, I didn't get the full gist of the conversation, which is why I'm asking the question. I think it was in the context of looking at his wife's job and saying how many people in the C-suite have a certain number of kids. And I just wanted to kind of ask that, does it matter how many kids you have to get into the C-suite? Because I know a few people that have upward of 5 to 7 kids, and they're in the C-suites. I do know that there's a whole bunch of people that we know these days, thanks to social media, that only have maybe 1 kid or 2 kids or less kids. So I don't know if could be any additional context you could add to that, Deji. I hope the question makes sense. I don't want to keep rambling, but
Yeah. So the question when we talked about that was, does the number of children we have, does family planning play an effect in our wealth building plan? And the context in which I said that was she's in that trajectory in sports to be in that type of level. And I think I know she could do it. the opportunities now that are now presented to her now with promotions that are like, you want to go to here, like Milwaukee Bucks, like they're reaching out to her to do like high level man. Anyway, those things are coming up that I do believe it can happen. I was just saying for us, were we going to have more children? Because for us, I know we don't want, I'm pretty sure people like that, they have someone taking care of their children. Like practically speaking for us, for me to do my career and for her to do her career, we would need some help. And if we relocate to these opportunities, I don't know if my family will have to have our family there or we'll have someone else raising them. So that's why I was asking, and just her in general, how many people are just in general, how many people are managing that type of thing? Because I wanted to hear that there were people like that. And I wanted to know, like, how are they managing their family? So my question was more so, are there people doing it? If they are, how are they managing their family and building wealth and doing all the things we discussed? So the question wasn't kind of like a discouraging type of question, like you can't do it or we shouldn't do it or it's not possible. It was more so, is it possible for us to manage our family goals and her managing that type of career, at least in her field? Because I know in her industry, is the phone's always on, right? The phone's always on. They're always, if a client, that's the kind of issue with her specific role.
Yeah, my industry, so just for in sports, there's no off season for the business side. For the players, there may be an off season for them to recoup from, the 10 games or the 22 games now that they've played. But for us, we're preparing for the next season. And so I know a lot of women that are in the C-suite, but they don't take work home like I do. So this weekend I'm in Delaware, I have my laptop and I'm answering client emails. I'm preparing for a practice that's taking place Friday night. I work on the weekend's actual games. So I'm at the games from 8 a.m. till about 5, 6 p.m. on a Sunday. So even my service to church, like I'm in the media department and I've had to work it out with them. Like, hey, during the NFL season, I may not be able to serve at the level that I would like to, just as an FYI. So for us to have more kids on top of wanting to do some of the other things we want to do, like serving is like a really important thing for the both of us. We're both Christians and we're active, but it's hard when you have multiple children. My career is very demanding, and not to say that it changes when you're at a certain level, but just sports in general is a very demanding career. It's a lot is expected of you, even though you're not saving lives like he is. But like when he's off work, he's not checking a patient chart. He's not getting a call about a patient. Whereas when I'm off work, my client can call me and say, hey, the $300,000 suite that I'm spending money on, I have a few questions on. And it's like, well, you kind of got to answer that because to their point, they're spending $300,000 on 10 games. Like you got to give them the service that they deserve.
And my sister is a physician, right? I have a sister that's a physician. She has 3 children. Both of her 2 youngest are like matching our age of our children. And it's like, her house is chaos, right? Like it's like the schedule we talk about isn't there, nothing's there. And like finding daycare help is a problem. So, for me, it's not a matter of kind of like just being discouraged. It's just I'm just a practical person and I just observe and things like that. And I know she could do it. I know she could pursue that type of thing. It's just a matter of our families are priority type of thing. And you'll know some people don't put their family first like that. They're C-suite, but their kids are in boarding school, right? Like
I know. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the clarification. That makes a lot of sense. If I could just have an interesting follow-up question, if you don't mind, Deji. Have you ever considered, or would you consider, or what do you think of a situation where you would have to give up your job to support her if you both realize that she has better projection to be able to support the family versus yourself? Okay. Sorry, I didn't get that. Sorry. And what's the just wife name by the way? Sorry.
Oh, my name is Kyrat.
Kyrat. Okay. Thank you.
The answer.
Go ahead.
I'm a firm believer that 2 incomes are better than one, unless one income surpasses the 2 incomes together. And if that's not the case, then no, we'll need to figure it out.
That's what I said though. Like if you guys find out that your income will be able to support the two of you, you
It
know,
will support, but it needs to surpass.
so pass. Okay.
So
Gotcha.
the money we're making, if I become a senior vice president of a team, God willing, that day will come and we'll all be sitting in a suite, living lovely. That money has to surpass what we would make together if he quit his job.
Yeah.
Context, that would probably have to be like more than $500,000. That would have to be like 500.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for the feedback. I guess.
No, but this is a good question. I mean, I've thought about that. I mean, I've thought about that. Like, the good thing about my job is, to answer your point, I think technically speaking, I do feel like I can take a step back. Why? Because my job is very flexible, right? Like hospital work is one of those things, like you could work 2 weeks, you could work a week, you could work, you could be changing your role every minute. Like you could, I don't want to work full time, I want part-time. They need you so much. It's like, okay, whatever you could give us. That's what they tell you, whatever you could give us. So yeah, I could take a step back. I'm willing to like adjust my schedule. I have adjusted my things. But to not work entirely it would have to be, just because of the flexibility of my job, it would have to be a significant amount of money. And for her to also be happy, right? Because I'm learning with these salaries, you may not necessarily be happy. Like they're gonna work you. The corporate America's funny like that. They'll give you the money and then you take your life. So yeah.
I'm glad, and this is going to be the last thing I say, but I'm glad that you took the time to actually put a little bit of meat to the response, because I'm of the opinion that it's okay for the man to step back, maybe not completely stop, but if you have to, if the situation warrants, that you actually completely stop working when you are within a certain income range, to be able to have somebody at home to take care of the family, while one of you could be the man or the woman, is on the forefront, raising or making the income or whatever, the family revenue. So I think what I'm looking for actually, you've been able to answer that, Deji. I think it's okay as African people, where we came from, it's usually the man, on the forefront or front line, and the woman sits at home. But I don't see any reason why the reverse cannot be the case when the situation warrants it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I agree. And you raise a great point. My wife has a lot of talent. She's very good at her job. And it's like, she could do so many things. So I don't want to limit her and she doesn't want to limit me. And you bring up a point I want to make before we get off, is just people that are single, find people that share your values. And because, someone could, have these questions before you get married, like when you're dating, like, how do you spend your money? Like this, you don't have to ask it directly, but you could at least be observant of and have conversations about retirement. And you could just tell knowledge deficit by conversation. Like someone's knowledge deficit, when you talk about the retirement and like you tell them financial literacy things, you'll know what they value or not. And if they keep talking about like their bag and they going on vacay, like you kind of could know, like you're talking about outflow and not like you kind of just could tell certain things. So I think that's very important, because when you get married, it's just going to exacerbate whatever, increase, they're going to just emphasize those things more. So yeah, I think these are all good points that you're making, and I'm willing to sacrifice for us. And even if that meant not working as much, I'm happy with that. I'm not in love with my career at all. So I mean, I love it, but I'm not in love. Like I can't take a step back.
I like that. She said, hell no, he's not quitting his job anytime soon. But so I'm gonna give it back to Doyen. Doyen, you wanted to announce the conference that we're having in ATL.
All right, guys. Sorry, before we got to go, but it's been a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to. I'm going to get the details of the conference. Sure, I already know about it, so I'm excited to hear more about it later. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Hyrat. Nice to meet you over Zoom.
Thank you, Deji.
You're welcome.
Bye, guys. All right. Thanks, Isa. Thanks to everybody that joined us today. I know it's a busy it's a nice weather outside, summertime, busy for everyone. So for you guys to still give us your time, so we really appreciate it. Usually we end the session with I know Deji already left, but since we still have Uzi, we usually ask our speakers or panelists to give us a common sense finance tip. So common sense, just for the new members. So like they always say, common sense not so common. So it's just something that's basic that you think we should be doing, but a lot of people are not doing, or you just want to bring to our attention. So Uzi, I'll put you on the spot to give us a common sense finance tip.
I think a common sense financial tip, to be honest with you, and I'm going to go back to one of the questions that came up here, is going to be budgeting. The reason I put that out there is what I've learned over the years is 2 years ago, I put together a spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet basically had all the columns of the bills that I pay, right? And what it exposed to me is how much money I actually make. I had no idea, right? Until I literally saw what all these things are, and I saw how much money was left, and I was like, where are those money going? So being able to look at your budget and understand what it is that's going out, what should be going out, and what's coming in allows you to be able to plan accordingly. And I think we all lose sight of that because there's certain things we're paying for that we think is just our normal day, but it actually is an expense if you're doing it monthly. And you should account for it as part of your expense and determine if it's necessary. So I think I think budgeting goes a long way. It encompasses a lot of things, and it will expose areas where you actually have pockets of money that you may not know you have. And all of that stuff, if you're not using it, throw it into a stock, throw it into a bond, throw it into a savings account that yields money, But my common sense would be budgeting, definitely.
Thank you. I love that. Budget, and you're right, it goes a long way. I think it was 2 years ago, me and my wife, we're not bad with money, but like you said, you just saying, you have things on auto pay, all that stuff. Then we did a spreadsheet also with one of our friends. That's what it's like. It does that, and I was so blown away with it's like, wow, we actually made this money. Oh wow, like spend this on this. So you're right, and I agree with that. Budgeting goes a long way. So with that said, thanks once again. Thanks to everyone. Once again for our new members. This is African Business Club. Our goal is to normalize financial literacy and promote collaboration among Africans. And so we do this monthly. It used to be every 2 weeks. We'll bring speakers in, but to just make it a little bit more informal and just more relaxed. So we started doing this monthly panel discussion on topics with our members that we think, is very important, like, what we just discussed today, health, wealth, and family. Those three things are very important. It doesn't matter what you do, those three has to be one of your major priority, and there's nothing wrong. Like today, I learned a lot, and I took some notes down from what Uzi said, Deji, Hyra, some things that I could also change or incorporate. So it's just great to have this community so we can just share ideas among ourselves. But in October, we're gonna have our first annual physical conference. Hopefully COVID will not mess that up. And the team has been working so hard to put this together. It's gonna be a great conference for networking, sharing information among ourselves. We have a great mixer of financial management, building business credit, real estate, economic empowerment. So it's gonna be a lot of powerful topics, powerful speakers. I'm hoping everybody, the full details should be coming out hopefully by end of this week. Hopefully people can start getting their ticket. It's going to be a great one for a lot of our members to finally meet one another and network with one another and see how we can start collaborating, because that's another goal of African Business Club, to collaborate among ourselves. So we'll send the full details out eventually, but please save this date and spread the words among your friends, families, and hopefully, we'll see everybody there. With that said, I'll say thank you again, everyone, for joining us. I always say, let's remember we are all kings and queens. So let's treat each other as such. I think, Uzi, you have something to say, Uzi?
Yeah,
go ahead.
I just want to add, right? I know we got 19 folks still online. We're a bit 9 minutes over, but I just want to add something, right? This ABC, is is dear to me and one of the reasons is, and a lot of us will find this as you go through life too, is when we talk about finances, right? We're not just talking about money, right? This is a lifestyle. This is leaving legacy, right? A lot of us are aware of what's going on back home in our respective African countries. And if we're paying attention in what's going on here in the United States as well, and other European countries, you will come to find out that one of the things that we are missing is an African community, right? There's Jewish communities, there's Asian communities, there's, Ethiopia is actually coming up now in some of the DC Maryland area, some of folks are paying attention, right? We are lacking proper African communities. We are lacking certain things set in place. And if they exist, please bring it to our attention, right? We want to know. But here's an opportunity where we're looking at building something that supports us, right? That understands what it is that we are looking for. No matter how long we spend in this country, I know a lot of us still have our minds back home. We want to either move back or we want to at least help things back home or invest back home, right? Sometimes it will start with what you have, right? And understanding that you have a community of people here to support you, and to set something else where we work with each other, keeps the money flowing within us, right? Doesn't mean we're secluding other races or other anything. No, that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is keep in mind, there's a reason why there's things called community. There's a reason why there's things called family, right? Working together and building together. And what we're asking is really, if you can make the conference, please do. If you can't, we ask that you please, support the, ABC, not just financially if you can't, but just participate in these events, giving us some ideas, bringing some new things to us so we can help expose it to other, members and African members, and bring in members as well. Because the more we can work together, the more we can build this together, we're going to have a very sustainable, community all across the United States and potentially even in other places in the European countries and Africa. So I just want to stress that, right? This is a very important thing for us, and we've come a long way, and we're hoping that, you guys and whoever else you bring with you to these events and sessions will help us push this along.
Thank you. I don't think I could have said anything better than that.
If I could add something to that,
Yeah, please.
I mean, Uzi, you just made my evening. Like I'm out walking, walking around. I don't even know how to pronounce the word. But the point is I'm, running, jogging. And that is like the most beautiful thing, I've heard in a very long time. There's huge power in community. If you belong to a community, you never walk alone. And part of the problems that people go through in life is they're alone. And I want to digress for one quick second. It's 30 seconds. I read a book by Malcolm Gladwell, right? Outliers. At the beginning of the book, he talks about a community somewhere in New York. And those people never have a heart attack. They're from Italy. And the question is, why? So they look at their cousins and, from Sicily, Palermo, all the places. Everybody seems to have heart attack at a certain age in their life. But those people who don't have it. So they start wondering why. Is it their diet? Is it their life? Whatever. Long story short, they come to find out because they belong to a very cold, what's the word? Very close-knit community. Because somebody never goes to sleep one day without somebody checking on them, right? And the community we're talking about can start from there and go beyond that. From getting trained on what do you need to know about your lifestyle, your professional, and any other thing you can think of. I think we need to start thinking about that. And we need to all come together and raise a community that supports us. So thank you guys. I really appreciate that input. Is anybody still on this call? Or am I alone?
Yes.
No, we can hear you. We can hear you. Just
Oh, I already ended my call. I already
your phone is breaking up now.
comment. I just wanted to know if I'm the only one on. Because said my audio may be fluctuating because I'm running.
Right.
Also, I'm running. I'm exercising. Yeah. But all I said in a nutshell, in case you missed everything I said, is that what Uzi is talking about is very important. We all need people to support us. And if we can build a community, trust me, the benefit is immeasurable. Thank you.
Thank you, Bayo. Thank you, Uzi. That was very great. I think Uzi just, like I said, I don't think I've said anything better than what Uzi just said. It's all we are doing is to build a community where, we can share this information and just grow together, learn together, and have sustainable wealth. So, yep. But yeah, so with that said, thanks everyone. Just like I said, lastly, let's remember we are all kings and queens. Let's treat each other as such, and have a blessed week. And we'll see you guys. And the information should be coming out soon for the conference.
All right. Thanks everyone for having me.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Isa.
Thanks.
Thank you. Can't wait for the conference.
Oh, yes.
Bring someone. Tell the person to bring someone.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, bye.
All right, guys. Bye.
All right. Later.